Hey, Eric the Pond Digger here, and today our focus is going to be on koi pond design, or designing a pond for koi. And we're going to cover a handful of things about integrating the pond into the landscape so it's a real focal point for you and your family. And I think the thing we should start off on is I've consulted with a lot of koi specialists, done a lot of reading, talked to all the different people in the industry. And when you get down to it, if you connected with, say, 10 different koi people and you were going to get an estimate, or if you were going to get a design for your property, these 10 different people would probably disagree on a lot of things. One guy would like this pump better than that pump. One guy would want to separate solids differently than this guy. And you might come up with 10 different designs. There are three fundamentals that I've found that everyone will agree upon, and I want to discuss those today and really focus on those three fundamentals. So when you go to design a pond or a koi pond for your place, you can try and figure out what's best for you in your situation. So the first fundamental of getting everything out of the pond basically means we want to get rid of all the fish poop, the pine needles, leaf debris, pollens that blow in, dust, anything that's undesirable. We want to get it out of the pond. The second fundamental would be separating solids. And separating solids is important because, for example, let's say you take some fish poop out of the pond, and it'd be nice if you could just set it over here and then send clean water to the filter. Instead of, say, sucking it through a bottom drain, direct suction into a pump, the poop gets ground all up and then send it up to the filter, and it kind of starts to clog the filter. So if we separate those solids, it helps the efficiency of the biological filter tremendously, and it reduces your maintenance. So separating solids is that second fundamental that's important. And the third fundamental is, of course, filtering the water, or nitrifying is what I would say. So the third fundamental, nitrifying the water, is a biological filter, and some people do it through upflow systems, some people do pressurized systems, some people do a combination of both. So those three fundamentals will always be incorporated into the design. So if you had 10 different people giving you 10 different concepts or plans, you could probably go, okay, this is how they're getting stuff out of the pond, and this is how they're separating solids, or this is how they're nitrifying, and then you can do it all from there. So when designing koi ponds for people, we don't have one system that works for everyone. We usually will go into a situation, we'll interview the homeowner, we'll figure out what the goals and expectations are of the owner, and we'll figure out budgets that are set, and then we'll design a koi pond specifically for them on that. And sometimes we're using different equipment, and we don't use the same stuff every time. What I want to do now is I want to take you into the landscape here. We'll get you up close and personal with this pond, and we'll show you how we've incorporated those three fundamentals into this system to help the homeowner have a beautiful koi pond. First of all, we've integrated this pond into the landscape in the front yard. This house is a unique piece of property, has a long driveway. As you come onto the property, you park up in this courtyard or in the top of the driveway, and this pathway is going to be a beautiful flagstone. It's going to come across, there's this beautiful bridge is going to be poured in place right here, and you'd come across the bridge into the front of the house. This is a neat way to greet yourself and your guests with some koi swimming around your feet like this. Now, one intimate piece that we're doing is this character boulder right here. We're going to stand it up once these forms get set in place, and we're going to integrate this into the pathway here. So when you're coming across the pathway, you can stop, have a seat, and you can reflect on the koi, you can see the waterfall and all that stuff. So this is a neat piece to integrate into it. In this koi pond design, we've installed 2 skimmers, and it's really our first phase of separating solids. So in here, we have a debris net to catch leaves, pine needles, and such. You see that we're getting this out of the pond via this net. Then we get finer things, removing finer solids from the system before sending it to the pump. So this is the first phase of separating solids. We've incorporated 2 bottom drains in this koi pond, and if you'll look down here, we have some air bubbles coming up. This is what we call an aerated bottom drain. This air is injected through the lines. It comes up through the dome of the bottom drain, and by adding air down there, it increases the area of influence around the bottom drain. So as things sink to the bottom, the currents that are created by this sweep along the bottom and sweep it in, and then we can send it over to our filter through the bottom drain line. We're only going to run these air bubbles in the evening time. Unless it's summertime, we might inject air more frequently, but we're going to run them in the evening time because this sometimes affects the skimming. So if we run them at nighttime, it sweeps the bottom of the pond. In the daytime, the top of the pond is being swept as well. So let's talk about how we separate solids once it leaves the bottom drain. This is some sieve filter technology, which I'm real fond of. It's relatively new to the koi pond industry. About 5 years they've been messing around with some sieve filters, and each year it progressively gets better. I'm pretty happy with this sieve system. And the bottom drains and the skimmers both converge into here. So we have the separating happening along the way, and as it gets to here, we have more separation. You'll see inside here we have quite a bit of debris. This was cleaned yesterday. And I said there's so much leaf debris and pine needles falling from this pond, we get a great deal of stuff coming from both the skimmer and the bottom drain into this circuit. Once we leave the sieve filters, we jump into our pumps. The pumps are sucking directly from the bottom of the sieve filters. Jumping on to phase 3, we have our main circulation system. We want to nitrify the water. We're sending it through a UV filter. We're sending it up to an upflow waterfall system up at the top of the pond. One thing I want to touch on getting everything out of the pond, this pump is basically for helping removing solids and helping some current jets in the pond. It helps get everything out of the pond. These things run 4 jets. We have lines in all the systems, two jets per pond, and it just gently swirls everything, and it gets everything over to the skimmer, and it helps facilitate the bottom drain and helps the area of influence around the bottom drain by pushing stuff to it. So pump 1 helps with phase 1 and phase 2. Pump 2 is helping with the final phase of nitrifying the water. So the final fundamental we've done on this pond is nitrifying the water through a biological waterfall filter. I really love using waterfall filters whenever possible because it helps to reduce the size of your filter room. You saw where we had our separation happening, and we had our pumps installed, and the UVs and the aerators, all that stuff. If I had to put my filter in that section too, it would be real tight. So I love using waterfall filters whenever possible in our koi pond designs. One final thing, we're going to drain this pond today because we've done a lot of mortar work in here. We put a lot of acid in the pond to help cure that mortar. While we have the pond drained, I want to take you up close and personal with next to the bottom drain, next to our current jets, and we want to show you how we've mortared everything into place. So we're going to jump back at you when we have this pond drained.